Hello and welcome to this week's webisode with Fishwick and Associates. As always, we're joined by our boss, John Fishwick, and Judge Daniel. And this week, I think we're talking about administrative hearings. Isn't that correct, John?
That is, Zach. That is correct. Now, tomorrow we have another court hearing in Franklin County Circuit Court. And so we'll be making another contribution to Feeding Southwest Virginia as a result of that court appearance. As I said earlier, we've had a brisk September, and we certainly have, but we're going to talk about administrative hearings today. Glad to see we've got the host with the most. We've got Judge Daniel. Judge Daniel started out, in state court. He's starting to do some administrative hearings. So, we're lawyers, we're trial lawyers, and so often that means we're going to a federal court or to a circuit court here in Virginia. But sometimes we're representing people who have administrative hearings. They could be a student at a school, or they could be a teacher or someone like that who's got, an employment or a discipline system that goes through a government-based administrative system. And those are kind of mini court hearings, and people hire us to represent them in those. And so they're a little different from a court hearing. We've had a number of those since COVID has begun. And we'll probably see more of those because there's a lot of tension in this country right now. And these administrative hearings are pretty easy to be held by Zoom, like we're doing today, or by some sort of remote technology. Court systems have kind of stricter rules on that, but administrative hearings can do those. And so we're usually representing somebody who's facing a very serious challenge in their life. It could be that there's discipline or something related to their job or extinguishing one of their rights. And so there's usually procedures in place. So we read up on those. We usually know about them because we've done a number of these. And the idea is to protect our clients' interests. Judge Daniel, if we represent somebody in one of these hearings, do they get the same rights that you get when you go into, say, a federal courtroom or to a state courtroom when they have one of these administrative hearings? Do they get the same? Is it just like a court hearing, or is there a difference?
Well, it's not the exact same rights, but they do get some rights under the Constitution. If it's a public entity, like a public university, for example, they are entitled to due process rights. It's not the same exact rights as you would get at a trial. For example, in the student conduct context, you're allowed to seek advice from a lawyer, but the lawyer typically does not participate in the hearing, whereas in a trial, the lawyer would be the one who's doing the most participation. But you do get due process rights, and the hallmarks of due process for any hearing, but in the administrative hearing context, are notice and opportunity to be heard. So you have to get notice of, what rule you're alleged to have been violating, and you have to have the opportunity to defend yourself against those charges.
That's exactly right. Now, Daniel, do judges, let's say the hearing is held and one side is not happy with the result, are there pathways for people to end up in the court system? And what do judges do when they look at it, particularly a federal judge? You've got one of these administrative hearings that we're talking about today. Let's say it's discipline as relates to a student or somebody who works for the government. Discipline as relates to their job, a demotion or a termination of their job. Will a judge get involved in that? And in what capacity will a judge get involved to either change what happened in the administrative hearing?
Certainly, you could certainly appeal an outcome of an administrative hearing. The judge will typically be looking at, whether due process was violated, not necessarily whether the hearing officer came to the right decision, but whether the proper procedures were followed, and a person who's been charged got a fair shot under due process rules.
All right. Well, that's interesting, Daniel. I know it's different. People think they watch television, or people, they know we go to court, and we do. We go to physical courts and we go to Zoom courts. But there are a lot of other hearings, Zach, that are out there. A number of these administrative hearings that people reach out to us, they have very serious rights on the line for people. And we understand that. We work very hard to protect those rights and those interests. So I think we've seen an uptick in these administrative type hearings. I don't expect them to kind of taper off. I think, as I said earlier, I think because of Zoom, it's easier to have these sorts of hearings. I think there'll be more of them. So it's our real privilege to represent folks on these administrative hearings. I think we'll continue to do it. And Zach, thank you for hosting us this week, and I'll ask you to sign us.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say we thank all of you again. We really appreciate all your comments and suggestions, and please keep them coming to us. And again, we'll be back next week. So we hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And again, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you.